What if the real purpose of advertising isn't getting someone to buy today, but making sure they remember your name when they need you tomorrow? In this episode of Miss Biz, we unpack one of the simplest yet most powerful marketing lessons, explore the psychology behind unforgettable brands, and reveal why some businesses stay top of mind while others are forgotten.
Hey, lady bosses, are you working even after putting the kids to bed but still not getting results?
Are you tired of spending money on ads that aren't getting engagement?
Do you feel burdened that you aren't fulfilling your purpose in life because you are so consumed with work?
I'm your host, Brooke Boltz. I'm an attorney and founder of Boltz Legal. I started my business and in 1 year was bringing in 7 figures and am now bringing in multi-7 figures.
And I'm your co-host, Rachel Boltz, owner of Boltz Media. I've helped many businesses build their online presence and increase their revenue through digital marketing.
Want to hear how we did it?
We are here to help you achieve your goals personally, professionally, and spiritually.
So kick off your high heels, sit back, and let's ignite that passion.
We're Miss Biz, where we're putting the miss in biz.
Let's get biz done. In our recent episodes, we've been talking a lot about all the lessons I learned at the Morgan & Morgan conference in Las Vegas. And one of the things that stood out to me is that John Morgan said that the key to advertising is they must remember your name. And at first, this sounds really simple, but if you really think about it, it explains why some businesses become household names while others spend thousands or millions on advertising that nobody remembers 5 minutes later. Today, we're talking about one of the biggest mistakes business owners make in marketing, and I have learned this lesson myself. We think that the purpose of advertising is to get someone to buy right now. And in reality, the first job of advertising is to earn a place in someone's memory, because if they don't remember you, they can't choose you.
Absolutely. So here's a little test you can do. It's called the toothbrush test. So how many times have you bought a toothbrush in your life? How many times?
I mean, dozens. And now that I have kids, it's like every time we go somewhere, one of them forgot their toothbrush. So we're buying toothbrushes all the time.
Yeah. Now tell me, what commercial convinced you to buy your current toothbrush?
In all honesty, I can't remember a single toothbrush commercial I've ever seen. Can you?
Yeah. Well, I remember some of like the Sonicare ones, and that's what type of toothbrush I have. But I don't think like me seeing that commercial made me go out and get it. I think the reason why I got that toothbrush was because my dentist recommended it. So most people, they have no idea if you ask them that question. But if you ask them to name 3 toothbrush brands, they're immediately going to be able to respond. So name 3 toothbrush brands.
Crest, Colgate, and Oral-B.
Yeah. So it's interesting, right? We forget almost every advertisement, but we remember the name. And that's exactly what branding is. Advertising isn't competing for today's sale, it's competing for tomorrow's memory.
So imagine 2 insurance agencies. One runs beautiful commercials with drone footage, slow motion families, inspirational music, and a cinematic ending. But at the end, the logo flashes on the screen for 2 seconds. The second company doesn't have all of that beauty in their advertisement, but they just repeat their name over and over. Every commercial, every radio ad, every sponsorship, every podcast, billboard, interview, everything. They're constantly repeating their name. So guess which one gets called when someone's insurance rates skyrocket?
It's going to be the one that's repeating their name over and over and over again.
Right. Because that's the name that pops into your head. It's not because they had the prettier commercial, because memory beats creativity. Now, that said, I think that creativity can make you memorable.
Absolutely.
I think if you have something very creative, that will stand out in someone's mind. However, what happens is, who was that company who had that great commercial,
right,
and it was so awesome? And if they can't remember your name, then even if they remember the commercial, they're not necessarily gonna find you.
Yeah.
Finding guests for a podcast can be difficult sometimes, so Brooke and I wanted to let you guys know that we are available to appear on your podcast.
We also enjoy speaking at events, so if you have an event coming up, these jingles can go on the road.
Simply go to missbiz.com/contact, and in the subject line, write podcast guest or event speaker, and we'll reach out to you to further coordinate.
So there's something called the 7-second rule. Psychologists have studied something called retrieval fluency. And basically, it's a fancy way of saying the easier something is to remember, the more we trust it. Our brains mistake familiarity for credibility. That's why you'll often choose the restaurant you've driven past 100 times instead of the one with slightly better reviews that you've never heard of before. Your brain automatically says, I know that one, even if you've never eaten there before.
So business owners love asking, how many leads did this ad generate? But sometimes that's the wrong question. A better question is, how many people remembered my name after seeing it? Because advertising often works long before it produces a lead. A billboard someone sees today may become a phone call 2 years from now. You can't measure that on next month's spreadsheet.
We kind of talked about this same concept in our episode where we discussed the Boltz legal event and how a lot of times people will host these big events thinking like, oh, I'm going to immediately get business out of it, where, that typically doesn't happen with events. It's about farming and building those relationships and allowing people to become familiar with who you are, being visible and present and staying top of mind. So it's kind of the same thing here, where you just really have to have a mindset shift where you just want to be as memorable as possible and not necessarily so focused and determined on automatically getting that sale.
Especially if you're a service-based business. If you're a product-based business, then maybe at an event you do expect to sell a certain number of products that day. But if you're a service-based business, then it's usually not going to be immediate. It's going to be when that need arises.
And I mean, even so with product-based businesses, often they need so many touch points before someone will actually make that purchasing decision.
Right. So here's some brands that are examples of household name businesses that we always remember. So Geico, what do you think of when you think of Geico?
The gecko.
Of course. The Geico, the gecko, the tiny gecko. He doesn't even sell insurance. He doesn't even talk about selling insurance, but he sells one thing that is more valuable, and that's the memory. He stands out in your mind, and he says the name Geico over and over again, and we remember it.
Yeah, it also reminds me of insurance companies are really good at this. It also reminds me of Allstate with the Mayhem guy. Yeah. Those always made me laugh and really kind of stood out and captivated your attention. And you knew every time that you saw his face come on TV that there was going to be something funny to look forward to.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I mean, we could sit here and think about all the big insurance companies, and they all have something memorable tied to them. There's Flo with Progressive, State Farm has Jake, Geico is the Gecko, Allstate, Mayhem. They've all kind of come up with that mascot, so to speak, that makes them memorable, but over and above that mascot, which the mascot is a tool to help us remember the name.
Yeah. And what it does is it creates experience and emotion, and that's what people remember.
Right.
So there's a story from World War II that most people have never heard. So during World War II, the U.S. military discovered pilots often couldn't identify friendly aircraft fast enough. The planes looked similar. Everything happened in seconds. So they began painting bold, simple markings that could be recognized instantly from a distance. Not because they looked better, but because recognition saves time. Businesses work the same way. Customers don't spend hours comparing every option. They recognize, they choose, and recognition wins.
I thought this was a really cool story because you think about that when you're in the military and you got to choose, is this an airplane I need to shoot down, or is this my friend? And you can't tell from a distance just looking at an aircraft. So they painted these big designs or markings on the plane so that they could immediately recognize if it was ours or theirs. And I just think that's a testament to how logos can work, and one that pops in my mind that's instantly recognizable by everybody as Target. When you see that Target logo, you immediately know all these things that are associated with Target in your mind. So, but ultimately, Target's logo also comes back to its name, and it symbolizes its name and helps us to remember that brand.
That's a great example. So the curse of reinvention, this can be one of the biggest marketing mistakes that businesses make, is constantly changing everything. So I do think it is healthy to rebrand, especially as you grow and develop. It's not going to be the same 10 years later after you started your business. But oftentimes what businesses will do is they try to constantly reinvent the wheel or change their current structure. So they'll be changing their logo, their slogan, their colors, their message, their website every single year. And just imagine if Coca-Cola changed its logo every January, or McDonald's changed the golden arches every 6 months. That could create some major complications, because consistency often compounds, and that repetition builds equity, and changing resets the clock.
Right. Do you love the Miss Biz podcast?
Because we love you.
Here's 3 things you can do to show your support.
1, write us a review. Apple, Spotify, and Google My Business are the best platforms to write a review.
2, follow us on social media. Our handle is @MissBizPodcast.
3, join our Facebook group, Miss Biz Nation, for exclusive content and behind-the-scenes footage. Also, ask questions related to your business and discuss topics from our episodes.
So yeah, and I agree with you. There does come times where it's time to do a rebrand. However, generally, you want to do that far and few between, not all the time. And something that I learned recently was like my profile picture on social media. I get tired of the same picture, and so I want to change it up every so often. But I had this training that said, don't ever change your profile picture. Leave it the same for decades, essentially, because people recognize it. They start to recognize your profile picture quickly when it comes up on feeds and in different things. And so you want to have the same profile picture. So that really was surprising to me, because I thought it was good to change it, because when you change the profile picture, it notifies everybody that you've changed it, and I just get bored of the same one. But it gave me something to think about when it said, no, people appreciate the consistency, and it makes them recognize you quicker.
Yeah. There's also something called the cocktail party test. So a fun exercise that you may try is, imagine you're standing at a networking event and someone says, I need an accountant. How many names immediately come to mind? Maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3. And that's your brain using what's called availability bias. The names that surface first usually get the opportunity, not necessarily because they're the best, but because they're the easiest to remember. And marketing is often a competition for that first mental slot.
This happens to me all the time. People call into the office and they need a certain type of lawyer that is not me. And the staff say, hey, who do you recommend for this type of law? And there are certain names that I know really well, and I recommend them all the time. But then there are others that I've met, but I've forgotten about. And I've completely forgotten. They're like as out of my memory, so I'm not able to refer them. And so, yeah, I think that being top of mind is critical, of course, for getting those referrals.
Yeah. There's 3 levels of advertising. Level 1 is where people see your advertisement. Level 2 is where people remember your name. And level 3 is where people recommend your name. Most businesses obsess over level 1. However, the winners master level 2 and 3.
Yeah. So if I were to say these brands, FedEx, Apple, Disney, Amazon, Starbucks, you probably are instantly picturing something in your mind as I read each of those brands. Maybe it's a logo, a color, a sound, an experience. For me, when I think of Amazon, I envision the website and what it looks like. Or when I think of Apple, I think of an iPhone. So those companies have spent decades reducing complexity into instant recognition.
Yeah. And what small businesses can learn from this is you don't need a Super Bowl commercial. You need consistency. You need the same colors, the same voice, the same tagline. Say your business name more often than feels comfortable. People aren't tired of hearing it. They're hearing it for the first time because your customers aren't watching every advertisement that you produce. They're catching tiny pieces over months or even years.
Right. And I've thought that before. Well, if I am saying the same thing in multiple ads, then people get tired of it. But realistically, they're not seeing every ad.
Yeah.
Unless they're like a super fan who just sits on your YouTube channel and looks at every ad you have, then they're probably only seeing one here and one there, and it's not feeling like it's redundant or it just feels natural, and repetition helps them to remember you.
If you study influencers, you'll notice that they pretty much only talk about 1 or 2 different things. Because what happens is once they start to go viral, they realize, wow, this is what people are interested in. This is the content that's performing well. I have to make more of this content. So then that's where they really niche down and basically only talk about that one topic. So that's what they have to do. They're not talking about everything under the sun. If they're known for, talking about hormone levels and this product that helps with hormone levels, that's all they're going to talk about. They're not going to talk about Pilates or, things of that nature. Right. They're going to really focus. And so that's what you have to remember too about your advertising, is that you're really staying consistent with the same message.
Right. So advertising isn't about convincing everyone. It's about being remembered by the right person on the day they finally need you. When someone's roof starts leaking, they're not searching for the cleverest commercial. They're searching their memory first. And when they're in a car accident, they don't remember every lawyer. They remember one. That's why memorable advertising is so powerful, not because it forces people to buy, but because it quietly waits in their memory until the moment they need it. And when that moment arrives, the business they remember becomes the business they call.
So this week, ask yourself one question. If someone needed my product or service 6 months from now, would they remember my company name? Because if they remember your name, you've already won the hardest part of marketing, and everything else is going to get a whole lot easier.
We appreciate you and are honored to be on this journey with you. We can't wait to help you to encourage you and show you how to grow personally, professionally, and spiritually.
If you found Miss Biz helpful, please leave a review and share with others.
You can follow us on social media at Miss Biz Podcast.
For legal questions or services, please visit boltzlegal.com.
And for digital marketing needs, please visit boltzmedia.com. Let's get biz done.